Thank you. All right, thanks everyone. You may be seated. Attorney O'Brien, you may proceed. It's 10:45.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, you've been 25 years on the job with New Franklin?
Roughly.
Okay. But maybe 5 homicides?
About, correct.
New Franklin is probably noted more for Portage Lakes than anything else?
That'd be pretty correct.
Okay. Sir, if you could keep your voice up.
Yeah.
And these masks are a hindrance, but that's the way life is right now.
Not
Okay.
a problem. Yes.
All right, thank you. One of the first exhibits that Mr. LaPrenzi showed you was an earring with a stud on it. Do you recall that
Yes.
exhibit, sir?
Yes.
All right. And in your investigation, did that earring or that stud lead you to Erica Stefanko?
No.
Okay. The blood that you saw on the pavement, did that ever lead you toward Erica Stefanko?
No.
The next set of questions, I believe, involved a flip phone
Okay.
that was found at the scene.
Yes.
All right. Did you find any DNA or fingerprints of Eric Stefanko on that flip phone?
Not that I can recall, no.
This Mr. Powell that testified and briefly, and he talked about cell towers and distances,
Yes.
what some cell towers will reach out to. Is that a fair point?
Yes.
All right. Now, I think he said that normally they were 3 to 5 miles, but depending on the terrain and tall buildings, could be even 10 miles or longer. Is that a fair statement, what he said?
Yeah, depending on the terrain.
Depending on the terrain,
Yeah.
you're right. First of all, are there any real tall buildings in New Franklin?
No.
Okay. And would you agree with me that Rex Lake Road would be within, say, a half a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile of 647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road?
It's a half mile.
How far is, if you've been there, Cindy and Jay Cobb's house from Rex Lake Road and or 647 West Turkey Foot Road?
From 647 West Turkey Foot to Jay and Cindy's house would probably be approximately 10 miles.
We saw a video taken at Walmart, or at least we saw a photo,
Correct.
okay? And it had Chad Cobb leading, is that correct?
Yeah, he was walking in front.
He was carrying one of the children on his shoulders, right?
Yes.
And Erica was in the photo. What was she doing?
Carrying a child.
All right, small child, baby.
Appeared to be, yeah.
We talked a little bit about this, what I'll call, and I think you referred to it as a box phone.
Correct.
Can you hear me well, sir?
Yes, sir.
Right. And then we searched some minutes and that sort of thing. Could you connect any minutes that you found to a box phone?
The specific minutes from the Walmart? No.
This, it was Officer Hargett, I believe, that found the navigator behind the barn on Rex Lake Road?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point in time, do you know how much later that you arrived on Rex Lake Road that morning?
I don't know the exact time, how long it was.
Okay. All right. When you got there, who did you find in the black Navigator?
I don't recall who was actually in the vehicle because they were out of the vehicle from what I understand. So I don't know if the kids were still in there or not at the time.
All right. Did you assist or lead the search for Chad in the woods?
No.
Do you know if Erica ever ran into the woods?
I do not believe she did.
You believe she stayed by the car or in the car?
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Do you know if she stayed in the passenger seat?
According to what Officer Hargett said, I think that's where she was at. I don't know. I wasn't there.
And her 4 kids were in the back seat?
Correct.
We talked a little bit about the milk crate that had a variety of cleaning solutions in it. I think a scrub brush. Am I pretty accurate with that, sir?
Yes.
All right. Now, would those be, I think there's some brake fluid also you mentioned.
Correct.
Those components can be found in any house, would you not agree?
They could be.
All right. They could be purchased at Walmart,
Yes.
okay, Lowe's, Home Depot.
A lot of stores.
Sure. Okay. The milk crate itself is not unusual, is it, sir?
It's a milk crate.
Pretty common item?
Back in the day, it would have been, yeah.
Yeah, true. With respect to these items, they could also be used by someone in what I call a blue-collar occupation,
You could use some of that stuff for multiple purposes.
including running or installing cable wire.
Yes, you could.
I think you said Chad was about 6'2" and over 200 pounds.
I believe that's about right.
All right. And I think there's been 2 exhibits here. One, a pair of camo pants.
Yes.
Would you consider those on the inseam or the outseam to be in the long range?
I mean, I couldn't say how long the inseam was or anything of that, but
It would fit someone, though, that was 6'2" or above?
yeah, like I said before, I believe that was him wearing them probably.
I think yesterday we saw a similar looking camo jacket also.
Correct.
Sir?
Yes.
Okay. And we asked, I believe, Agent Lewis what the size of that jacket was. Do you remember what he said?
Yes.
And what was that size?
Extra large dash regular.
Okay. And do you think that would have fit somebody who was about 6'2" or so?
Possible.
Okay. Chad, I'm sorry. Is it fair to say there was no real scientific evidence linking Erica Stefanko to the crime scene?
Correct.
department was, and maybe the sheriff's department, found Chad hiding in the woods, is that correct?
That's correct.
He was trying to elude any type of capture?
I believe what Officer Hargett said, he was crouching down behind a tree.
Now, was he arrested on the spot?
No,
Okay. He was detained, correct?
he was detained.
All right. And later on, was he arrested?
Yes, he was.
Did the New Franklin Police Department file the charges?
Yes,
Okay. Now, was Erica also taken to the New Franklin Police Department?
yes, she was.
Was she handcuffed?
Not that I remember.
Was she under arrest?
No,
How long did she spend at the New Franklin Police Department, if you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. Was it a better part of the day?
I was in and out, so it's hard to tell.
Okay. Did you have anything in the decision to send her home?
No,
Okay, was that done by a supervisor?
it would have been, yeah.
Okay. You found some blood, or testified about blood being found on some of Chad's possessions, true?
True.
Did you ever find any blood of Erica Stefanko on any of his possessions?
No,
This, we have a Facebook page, I believe it's Exhibit 122. And I think you pointed out, I think it was O.J. Simpson?
correct?
Okay. And I think it was your statement that he was found guilty.
I believed he was, but was he? No.
He was actually found innocent, wasn't he?
I believe he was acquitted.
He was acquitted
Correct.
in the murder of his ex-wife and boyfriend.
Correct.
Okay. Talk about the navigator again.
Okay.
There was a court order for Ms. Stefanko to provide some DNA, I think it was, correct?
Correct.
And she initially fought that order, did she not?
She refused, yeah.
Did she have a lawyer?
She did not have a criminal lawyer at the time.
Question is, did she have a lawyer?
She did.
Okay. And could that lawyer have advised her to resist giving a DNA sample?
She could have.
Okay. Eventually, though, she did provide that sample, true?
Yes, after the court ordered her to, yeah.
Chad talks to you a second time in the prison, does he not?
At a different location, different prison, yes.
Okay. After he declines to talk about Erica at his sentencing, correct?
Yes.
Were you at the sentencing?
Yes.
And then approximately a year later, you go to one of the prisons. You want to ask him about Erica again. Again, he refuses.
Correct.
Then you talk to him a second time.
He wrote a letter.
Okay. As a result of him sending you this letter, did it appear that Chad might be seeking some form of revenge?
To me, it was trying to get the whole story out. I guess that what happened that night.
Okay. Now, at this point in time, he has pled guilty to a sentence. He did this voluntarily, correct?
He did.
You were at that sentencing, correct?
That is correct.
And he's also knows that a person by the name of Christopher Michael Stefanko is married now to Erica Stefanko. True?
He did get married to her. I don't know when.
Okay. And he's not very happy about that, is he?
He can answer if he knows.
I don't know.
Is it fair to say, sir, that your interviews with Chad would lead you to believe that he still wants to get out of prison?
I believe he would want to get out someday.
It's pretty normal, though, for people that are in prison. They want to get out, don't they?
If you're looking at a life sentence, I believe so.
And is it your experience after 25 years in law enforcement that some people in prison will do just about anything to get out of prison?
I mean, it's like what? I mean, explain.
Well, perjury,
Anything's possible.
okay? You interviewed Cindy Cobb, correct?
Yes.
All right. And this is where you get this tape, true?
Yes, she did give us the tape.
And you learned that she'd been sitting on this tape, or keeping it in her possession, for 4 years?
I learned that after listening to the tape, and it had the date on it that
Okay.
it was recorded.
Would you agree with me that Cindy Cobb has definitely got a vested interest in getting her son out of prison?
Well, most parents would want to try.
Well, I'm referring to Cindy Cobb.
I never really asked her the question. Yeah, she wants to get her kid out, but I don't know.
Do you know whether or not Chad Cobb told, or did Chad Cobb tell you to go see his mother?
Yes.
If I could have a moment, Your Honor? Detective, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Attorney O'Brien. Desiree, thank you.
Detective Hitchens, I just have a few follow-up questions for you, okay?
Okay.
First of all, O.J. Simpson was found not guilty, correct?
That's correct.
Not innocent,
He was acquitted, yes.
but he was found civilly responsible
He
for the
was.
death. Okay. So we're clear, right?
Yes.
Okay. You are familiar with the whole New Franklin, Wayne County area, is that fair?
I am.
And you're familiar with where the Cobbs live?
Which specific?
I'm sorry, not, yeah, Cindy and Jay.
Yes,
And you're familiar with where Chad and Erica and now Mike live?
correct.
Okay. In that area, are you familiar with the number or the fact that there are multiple cell towers all over that whole area?
There's towers all over, yes.
All right. So in the discussion about the cell towers and the phone needing 10 miles, if we were out in the middle of Kansas, that might be helpful, correct?
True.
All right. But when you have multiple towers in your general area, you don't need that phone to go 10 miles, do you?
No.
How far is it from West Turkey Foot Lake Road to Mount Eaton Road where they lived?
From the crime scene to there is a little over 13 miles.
Okay. In your investigation, did you learn or find any evidence that Erica Stefanko was at the Cobb's, Jay and Cindy Cobb's residence at the time of this crime?
No.
I know Mr. O'Brien didn't mean to mislead it, but he said that there was brake fluid in that box. It's not actually brake fluid, is it?
It's a cleaner that,
It's cleaner.
for cleaning.
Okay. For brake pads or something like that?
It can be used for multiple things, but that's specific to it,
Okay.
yes.
Mr. O'Brien talked to you and asked you about the fact that most of a lot of these things are common, like anybody can have them, right?
Anybody could, yeah.
And most people would not have 3 cans of brake parts cleaner, correct? It's not something that people have a lot of around.
Usually if you buy a can if you need it.
Right. One at a time, correct?
Correct.
Now, he is in a business that uses vehicles, fair?
Fair.
And he would, quite naturally, he's building things, he's renovating the house. He would have these type of things, fair?
Yes.
And it could be used in his business, fair?
Yes, it could be.
And he had a service truck,
Yes.
and he had his pickup truck,
Correct.
and then there was the Navigator.
Yes.
And the Navigator had kid seats in it.
I believe so.
Was there anything about that Navigator that looked as though it was a work vehicle?
No.
As far as you knew in your investigation, the person that used that vehicle was Erica Lyon, correct?
That's correct.
Mr. O'Brien asked you about the fact that she refused the DNA swab, and that she could have had an attorney, and she did have an attorney. Is that true?
Yes.
And it wasn't until the judge, matter of fact, Judge Corbel Jones, not only held her in contempt, but fined her. That is when she finally submitted.
Correct.
And I think this is going to be my last question. Mr. O'Brien talked to you about the fact of motives for potentially lying, correct?
Yes.
He asked you about Ms. Cobb's motive.
Correct.
And fair, any mom would want her child to be out, fair?
Yes.
He asked you about people in prison. Do you have or know of any person that you have put in prison that doesn't want to get out?
I'm sure they all want to get out.
Sure. And he asked you, wouldn't somebody with a life sentence do almost anything to get out?
Correct, you did.
And isn't it fair also then to say that anybody who is facing life sentence would also do anything to stay out,
Yes,
like perjury?
yes.
Thank you.
Attorney O'Brien, anything else?
No recross, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, Detective, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, Desiree, very good. Does the state have any further witnesses at this time?
At this time, Your Honor, based on the state of the evidence, we have no further witnesses.
Okay. So with the state,
Except for, we have no further evidence except for our exhibits.
sure. Okay, so does the state wish to rest at this time?
Pending the admission of our exhibits, yes.
Fair enough. All right, subject to the admission of the state of Ohio's exhibits, we'll note for the record, the state of Ohio has rested at this time. The parties reserve the right, and we will address on the record the admission of those exhibits. I will also reserve any rights, Attorney O'Brien, for any motions that you would make at the appropriate time. The record is preserved, and those motions will be addressed. Are you prepared to call any witness at this time, or Attorney O'Brien, how would you like to proceed?
Judge, at this point in time, we have Christopher Michael Stefanko here.
Okay.
He would be my first of two witnesses.
Okay, very good. Well, we can have Mr. Stefanko brought into the courtroom then. Very good. All right, sir, if you'd raise your right hand, step over here if you don't mind so I can see you. Do you swear or affirm the testimony or statement you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, you'll be seated there in the witness chair. There's 2 microphones there. You can see our jurors throughout the courtroom.
Okay.
You need to keep your voice up for them and for our court reporter.
Okay.
The other instruction that you need to follow is all children, if asked about, will refer to them by their initials. Do you
Okay.
understand me?
Yes, I do.
All right, thanks. You may be seated. All right, Attorney O'Brien, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, would you give us your full name?
My name is Christopher Michael Stefanko.
Okay. And your address, sir?
I live at 15007 Mount Eaton Road. That's Rittman,
Is Rittman in what county?
Wayne County.
What is your trade, vocation, or occupation?
I am a cable installer.
And whom do you work for?
I contract for DirecTV currently.
I want you to keep your voice up. I can
Okay.
barely hear you back here. Okay?
Okay.
How old are you, sir?
36 years old.
And do you have any children?
Yes, I do.
And what are their names and ages?
Starting with the youngest is LS. She is 7. Then my other biological is DS. He is 13.
Okay.
And then my oldest adopted is AS. He is currently 15.
Okay. Now, of those initials, can we have boy or girl?
LS is a girl, DS is a boy, and AS is a boy.
Do you know an individual by the name of Erica Stefanko?
Yes, I do.
And what is your relationship to her?
She is my wife.
And how long have you been married?
We have been married for 5 years.
Where'd you get married?
We had our wedding ceremony in Worcester, Ohio. We got legally married in the courthouse in Millersburg.
Is that in Holmes County?
I believe so, yes.
Now, do you know an individual by the name of Chad Cobb?
Yes, I do.
When did you first meet Chad Cobb?
I first met Chad Cobb when his parents moved next door to mine when I was 4 years old.
And where was that
That was,
location?
I was residing at 12166 Harvey Circle in Rittman as well.
All right. So you meet Chad when you're 4 years old?
Correct.
And how old was he?
He was 6.
Did you attend the same schools?
Yes, we did.
What schools were those?
Chippewa local schools in Doylestown.
When you got older, did you and Chad still connect, so to speak, with one another?
Yes, we did.
In what way?
We remained friends off and on through our entire childhood and life.
Did you ever enter into any other type of relationship with Mr. Cobb?
I was his business partner for a couple of years as well.
Would that be Cobb Cable Company?
Yes.
And I think you said you were his partner?
Originally, yes.
All right. Did your status remain that way?
When we finally had a large enough company and a large enough crew, I was demoted to a field supervisor.
Approximately how long did you work for Mr. Cobb?
I worked with him off and on for probably 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
He was my primary employer for the last 2 years up until the company dissolved.
Do you remember when, let me withdraw that. Do you know if Chad and Erica were ever married?
Yes.
Do you remember about when they got married?
I believe it was sometime in 2010.
Now, did you know Erica prior to that time?
Yes, I did.
How did you meet her?
I met her through Chad.
Do you remember about when that was?
I want to say 2007, 2008.
So you knew Erica about 2 years before she and Chad got married. Is that
Correct.
a fair statement?
Yes.
All right. So how long were Chad and Erica then married?
2 years, I believe.
Okay. I'm going to call your attention to the spring of 2012. Were you around this area at that time?
Yes.
Were you working with or for Chad Cobb at that time?
Yes.
Was Chad still married to Erica at that time?
Yes.
All right. At that point in time, was Chad having, some difficulty in a custody situation?
Yes, he was.
What was his demeanor during this period of time?
Frustrated and more or less distraught.
Okay. And why was he frustrated and distraught?
Because he wasn't able to gain custody of his daughter.
And that would be someone we know as GC?
Correct.
Did there ever come a time when there was a decision made with respect to the custody of GC?
I don't understand what you mean.
Did Chad ever receive a decision concerning his custodial rights to GC?
As far as I understand, Ashley was granted custody of GC.
How did Chad take that?
Not well.
Did he ever express his frustration in any way? Did he ever say anything about it?
That he was extremely frustrated with the situation and that he can't believe that it was happening, more or less.
Did he ever say anything about Ashley during this time?
Objection. Hearsay, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Did he ever threaten Ashley?
He had
Hold
nothing
on.
nice.
Hold on, just for one moment. You asked if he ever threatened Ashley?
Did Chad ever
Threaten
threaten
Ashley?
Ashley?
Yeah, your objection?
Hearsay.
Okay. Overruled.
You can answer, sir.
So you're asking me if he directly threatened her? Not that I know to her person, but definitely in conversation.
All right. And what did he say about that threat?
He needed her gone.
What else was he going to do to her?
He made a comment that when it was all said and done, that he wanted to keep her skull as a trophy.
Did he say that more than once?
I believe he said it on at least 2 separate occasions.
Did he say this in your presence?
Yes, he did.
I'm going to call your attention to the night of, or early morning hours of June 21st, 2012. Were you here in the area, whether
Yes.
it be Summit or Wayne County?
Yes, I was.
All right. That evening, did you have any conversation with Erica Stefanko?
No, I did not.
Did you have any contact with Chad Cobb?
I spoke with him on the phone.
When did you spoke with him? When did you speak with him on the phone?
The very early morning hours, I believe between 3 and 5 a.m.
All right, how did that conversation come about?
I was woken up out of my sleep by Cindy and Jay Cobb knocking on my door.
Now that's Chad's mom and dad,
Correct.
and you said this is between what hours?
I believe 3 and 5 in the morning. The sun wasn't even up yet.
Do you remember what Chad said to you?
On the phone, the first thing Chad said to me when I picked up is
Well,
that
first of all, did you look at your phone before Chad called?
I was instructed by Cindy and Jay Cobb that Chad had been trying to reach me that night.
Did you look at your phone?
That's when I looked at my phone and saw that I had roughly 15 to 20 missed calls.
Would they have been from whom?
They were from Chad.
Eventually, well, what did Cindy Cobb and Jay Cobb do, if anything?
Shortly after waking me up and telling me that Chad was trying to get a hold of me, they left.
What did you do then?
After they left,
Yes.
I waited for Chad's phone call.
Did you get a call?
Yes, I did.
About how much later?
Between 5 and 15 minutes after Cindy and Jay left.
Was Chad the caller?
Yes, he was.
What did he say to you? First thing.
The very first thing out of his mouth was, "I effed up."
I effed up?
I effed up.
All right. Else did he say, if anything?
After that, he asked me to collect some of his belongings and bring it to him.
What kind of belongings?
Clothes?
Did he ask you about his clothes?
Yes.
Did he ask you to bring anybody else's clothes?
No.
Specifically, did he ask you to bring woman's clothes?
No.
Did he ask you to bring children's clothes?
No.
When he first made his comment, he spoke in the singular, did he not?
Yes, he did.
He didn't speak in the plural, did he?
No. At no point during our conversation.
What was your response to his request for getting his clothing?
I told him I could not do anything unless I knew more about what was going on.
Did he give you a response to that?
At that point, he sounded frustrated and said, "Don't worry about it. I'll figure something out."
Was that the last time you spoke to Chad?
That night, yes.
You have indicated that you have some children yourself, and at any point in this Chad Cobb, Ashley Biggs, Erica Stefanko era, did you ever care for any other children?
Yes, I did.
And using their initials, who were they?
KC and FC.
Okay. All right. You've got a screen in front of you, correct, sir?
Yes.
And showing you what will be marked for purposes of identification as Defendants C.
Sorry, say.
I only have it marked in
All right. This would be then would be marked for purposes of identification, Your Honor, as Defendants B as in Bravo.
Okay.
Do you recognize that photo?
Yes, I do.
All right. And who is in that photo?
That is me, my wife, and all of our children.
Okay. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that's you in the middle, the tall one.
Correct.
All right. And who is to your immediate left?
As I'm looking at the picture,
Yes.
that is AS.
Well, no. Standing there. Who's to your left?
That's Erica
Okay.
Stefanko.
All right. Now, beginning, let's call them small to tallest.
Okay.
Who's the smallest? What are those initials?
LS.
Okay. And is that a little girl?
Yes, it is.
Is that your little girl?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Your biological child.
Correct.
And who's the mother?
Erica Stefanko.
Okay. Who's the next child?
That would be KC.
Yeah, okay.
The next
All right.
tallest is KC.
Okay. And is that your biological child?
No, it is not.
And who is the father of that child?
Chad Cobb.
Who is the mother?
Erica Stefanko.
Okay. And then the next, I guess, will be in the middle of the picture.
That is FC.
Okay. And who is her father?
Chad Cobb.
And who's her mother?
Erica Stefanko.
Okay. Okay, next. Who would that be?
The next tallest thing too is DS.
Okay. And who's his father?
I am his father.
Okay. Erica is not his mother, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And the tallest child off your right shoulder?
That is AS. AS.
Okay. And who's his father? Or is he adopted?
I'm his adoptive father.
Okay. There came a point in time that you moved in with Erica, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And what address was that?
15007 Mount Eaton Road,
Hey, is that out there, the Doylestown area?
Doylestown Local Schools, yes.
Okay. What is the post office box? Is that Rittman?
It's Rittman address, correct.
Okay. It's Wayne County, correct?
Yes.
All right. Whose house is that?
That is Erica's house.
Who is the titled owner of that property?
Erica Stefanko.
What kind of mother is Erica Stefanko?
An amazing, loving, and extremely caring mother.
Okay. Now, did there ever come a time when Erica lost custody or possession of some of the children?
Yes.
And when was that?
Around June of 2012 when Chad went to jail.
What was Erica's condition, mental, physical, emotional, during that time?
Extremely distraught.
She had just seen her husband go to jail and lost control of most of those children.
Correct.
Did she, while you were still there, regain custody of her children?
Yes.
About how much later?
I believe it was a year or more.
These children, even some of them that were not of your blood, did you care for them?
Yes, I did.
Did you provide a home or a roof over their heads?
Yes, I did.
Did you provide financial support for them?
Yes, I did.
With respect to a position in the family, how did you regard yourself with those children?
I came to regard myself as their father.
And from what time frame to what time frame would you have been in this position? From what year to what year?
2013 until present.
Now, you weren't, in 2013, you weren't married to Erica, were you?
No.
Right. And sometime later on in 2013, you and Erica had a child,
Yes.
and that child's initials are?
LS.
Is she still with you?
Yes.
Let's talk about the Cobb Cable Company. You've already indicated you were employed there. You worked with Chad or for him, correct?
Correct.
All right. How many employees did the company have?
At our largest, I believe, including myself and Erica, there were roughly 10 of us.
And if it's not clear exactly what type of work did this company do?
We were mainly doing aerial construction and maintenance.
All right? Give us some specifics of what you did.
Running aerial fiber lines, maintaining existing cable systems, and things along that line, strictly outside work.
Did you work as a subcontractor for a bigger outfit?
I believe we were contracting for Time Warner at the time.
Now, did there come a point in time when that company wasn't doing so well?
Yes.
Can you tell us when that happened?
After Chad went to jail.
Okay? After he went to jail, he was the leading force in this company?
That and the fact that his last name was on it, nobody wanted to touch it after he went to jail.
Okay? So, the company went downhill, is that a fair way of putting it?
Yes.
Did it eventually go out of business?
Yes.
And when this company went out of business, who handled that?
Erica?
Okay? Had Erica been working there?
Yes.
What did she do for the company when she was working there?
She was our receptionist. She lined up our work, acquired our work, things of that nature.
So was she the only one that handled, well, I'll use the phrase dissolution of this company?
Mainly, yes.
Okay. Did you have anything to do with the dissolution of the company?
I helped Erica gather the things that they were selling in direction of Chad.
All right. So the company's, let's call it physical property was sold off?
Correct.
Were there any bills to be paid?
As far as business,
Yes.
that I don't know.
Okay. As a result of these things being sold off, did you receive any of the proceeds of the sale of these, I'll call them assets?
No, I did not.
If I could have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Judge, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Cross? Desiree, if you don't mind. Thank you. Thanks, Desiree.
Good afternoon, Mr. Stefanko.
Hello?
My name is Felicia Easter, and I'm going to ask you some questions on cross-examination.
Okay.
I tend to talk fast sometimes, so if there is a question you don't understand, will you please let me know? Or if you need me to repeat a question, please let me know.
Okay.
I believe one of the last questions you were asked on direct was about the sale of the Cobb Cable Company, the dissolution of that company, and if you received any proceeds from that company. I believe you stated you did not.
Correct.
The proceeds from that company, at that time, you were living at 15007 Mount Eden Road, correct?
Yes.
You were taking showers there and using the electricity there, is that fair to say?
Yes.
The proceeds from that company, there was a mortgage on that house as well, isn't that correct?
Yes.
And the proceeds from that company, is it fair to say, went to help pay for those bills, the water bill, the electric bill, the mortgage?
That I don't know. I was not in charge of the bills, ma'am.
Okay, good point. So you did not pay them, correct?
At that time, no.
Okay, but the bills got paid.
Correct.
Okay, and the only other adult in the house would have been Erica Stefanko, correct?
Yes.
And you stated she got the money from the dissolution of the Cobb Cable Company, correct?
That is my understanding.
You also, well, I want to talk about the affair you had with Erica Stefanko. Did that start before or after Chad Cobb went to prison? Or got, let's just start with got arrested.
After?
It started after he got arrested in June of 2012, but before he was sentenced and went to prison. That's a fair statement, correct?
I'm not sure the exact date that he was sentenced.
Okay. But Erica Stefanko was pregnant at his sentencing, correct?
Again, I don't know the date that he was sentenced.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. He was sentenced in February 2013,
She may have been.
which means the affair started, as you put it, after he got arrested in June and before he went to prison or got sentenced and went to prison in February of 2013. That's correct?
Yes.
That is approximately 9 months exactly. So your testimony is that, I just want you to think about that, the date of birth of your smallest child, LS, and your testimony today in front of the jurors, that your affair with Erica Stefanko started after Chad was arrested for the incident that occurred June of 2012.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you grew up with Chad, correct?
Yes.
Went to middle school, elementary school, high school together, the Chippewa school system?
Everything except for high school, yes.
Okay. And Chad gave you a job. He was your employer, correct?
Yes.
And he also gave you keys to his house, correct?
Yes.
And the way you repay Chad is to have an affair with his wife as soon as he goes to jail.
Objection to form.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, what is your question?
And that's probably me talking a little fast. I said, you grew up with Chad, and I'll take it bit by bit. You grew up with Chad, correct? I think you said you were 4, he was 6,
Yes.
okay? Middle school, elementary school together,
Yes.
and you just stated you went to separate high schools, correct?
He went to a vocational school.
Okay? And he gave you employment. At one point, he was your primary employer, isn't that correct?
Yes, I left other employment to come on full-time with him, that is correct.
Okay? And he also gave you keys to his house.
Yes.
And you would have to agree that there's an element of trust. You just don't give anyone keys to your house. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And the last question was, you thank him or repay him by having an affair with his wife when he gets arrested.
You're asking if I started seeing Erica after he was arrested? Yes, I did.
You also stated that in the beginning you were I believe you said partner, and then you were demoted?
More or less.
Okay. How much startup money did you put in Cobb Cable Company?
I don't have that answer. It wasn't just monetary money, it was my time, my commitment, and my dedication that warranted that.
And you were paid for your time, your dedication, and all of that. Isn't that correct?
Yes,
As a regular employee would be paid for their time and dedication to a job. Isn't that correct?
I guess so.
Did you buy any supplies, any tools?
On occasion.
Okay. Now, I want to talk about you having a vested interest in this case. Is it fair to say you have a vested interest in this case? Your wife is sitting on trial. And I'll just stop there. Is it fair to say you have a vested interest in this case?
Explain what you mean by vested interest.
The outcome of this case affects your life directly.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So you yourself would do anything to help Erica Stefanko out.
No, I wouldn't.
Would you violate a court order?
No, I wouldn't.
So you wouldn't violate a court order that you're aware of to help out Erica Stefanko?
Correct.
Are you aware that the judge instructed everyone, there's a separation of witnesses?
No. What
You're saying Attorney O'Brien did not tell you there was a separation of witnesses at the beginning of this trial?
I was not aware of that.
So you're saying you were not aware that you were not supposed to look at, watch, Google, Facebook, or watch Court TV live stream this trial? That's what your testimony is right now.
That's what I'm saying, ma'am.
And you did that. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Did you watch the whole trial?
No.
What parts did you watch?
I watched the opening statement of both the prosecution and the defense.
Did you watch Chad Cobb? And you're saying that's the only part you watched?
On one other occasion, I watched the court TV preview of what happened that day.
And what happened that day? Did you see Chad Cobb's testimony?
They talked about his testimony.
And isn't it true that you spoke to the defendant, Erica Stefanko, on the phone about the testimony?
No, there was no direct discussion about Chad's testimony.
Just last
I was asked if I had watched any of it, and I told her I had, because I wanted to know what she was going through in this courtroom.
Isn't it true that she told you you should watch Chad's testimony?
No,
She didn't tell you, she didn't urge or encourage you to watch Chad's testimony?
no.
When you said the court TV was recapping Chad's testimony, did they show his face or have him up on the screen, or were they just commenting on it?
They showed his face.
And then that's how you were able to see his hair, and you two were joking about how you looked on there?
Correct.
Is that where you learned? You know what, strike that here. Okay. Mr. Stefanko, on direct examination, you were asked about the calls that you received from Chad Cobb on the night, actually would have been the morning of June 21st, 2012, correct?
Yes.
And you stated that Chad told you, I fucked up, and he asked you to collect his belongings and bring it to him, correct?
Yes.
Now, today, as you sit here, in the trial for Erica Stefanko, that would appear to be damning statements towards Chad Cobb, as if he did this by himself. And you were also asked that he was only to bring his clothing, correct?
Correct.
Now that conversation, again, like I said, would have taken place June, the early mornings of the 21st, 2012, correct?
Yes.
Erica Stefanko has been sitting in jail for this case.
I am
Now,
well
at
aware of that.
any time after June, did you call Detective Hitchings and tell him this information?
No.
Since Erica Stefanko got arrested at any time, did you call Detective Hitchings and tell him this information?
No.
You thought it was good now at her trial, while you have a vested interest to say it, but at no time since she's been sitting in jail, you didn't think to call Detective Hitchings and tell him this great information that may help your wife sitting here at trial.
If I had been asked at any point before these last few weeks, I would have no problem divulging that information.
Do you think that information is good for Erica Stefanko?
I think that information is the truth, ma'am.
Okay. And you didn't want to come forward and say, Chad said he did this, used it in the singular, not they or he. You kept that to yourself.
Until I was asked about it, ma'am.
You were also shown a picture. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 124.
Did you say 24?
Correct, Your Honor, 124. Can you see State Exhibit 124, Mr. Stefanko?
Yes.
And is that you in that picture?
Yes, it is.
And by initials, who are the minor children?
DS, KC, FC, LS, and AS.
Are they the same individuals that were in the other picture?
Yes.
And that picture appears to have been put up on a Facebook by Erica Stefanko around January 5th, 2019. Is that fair?
Yes.
Do you know what that board reads that the minor child is holding?
I cannot read it in this, but I believe it says something on the lines, if you want to get through to them, you have to go through us.
Mess with us, you go through them. Does that sound about right?
Yes, it does.
You made a statement on direct that Chad, you were in the vicinity of Chad, and he stated that he was going to keep Ashley's skull as a trophy. Was that just you and him talking?
I can't recall if there are any other people there with us.
Where was that conversation?
I don't recall the location of the conversation. Could have been in a vehicle or at his house. We could have been working.
Well, when you're working, was Erica around when that conversation was had? You said you could have been in a vehicle or working. She didn't go out on site and work with you all, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So was Erica around when you heard that statement?
I don't know for sure.
And that statement on court TV, is that one of the statements you heard when you were watching court TV?
No, ma'am?
It wasn't?
No, ma'am?
Mr. Stefanko, do you remember the first time meeting Detective Hitchens? Did he come out and talk to you shortly after the incident in 2012, in June?
I believe so.
And you were at home, were you at home by yourself?
Yes.
And it was just Detective Hitchens, correct?
Two gentlemen showed up at my door.
Okay. But you didn't feel threatened or anything. It was just they came to ask you about the circumstances of that night, June 20th through the 21st, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And at that point in time, you were at your own house, correct?
Yes.
And it was just them two gentlemen there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you just stated, had you been asked about the information of that night, you would have told,
Correct.
but you did not tell Detective Hitchens your statements that you gave today.
Because my conversation with them went like this. They identified themselves. I said I would not be speaking without an attorney present. That was the first and last time I ever saw the detective.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. My question was, at that time, you did not tell Detective Hitchens about the conversation that you had with Chad that night, correct?
Correct.
And you stated that how upset, how frustrated and Mike Stefanko was at the custody situation, and I'm sorry, Chad was at the custody situation, and that he stated he would keep her head as a trophy. Were you surprised
Yes.
that the incident happened in 2012?
Yes.
After everything you saw and heard regarding Chad during the custody battle and his statements?
Yes.
I do not have any further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Desiree? Thank you.
Judge, if I could just stay here.
Certainly. Thanks, Desiree.
Mr. Stefanko, this affair that Miss Easter referred to ended in marriage, did it not?
Yes, it did.
You still married to Erica?
Very happily so, yes.
When you are visited by a couple of detectives from New Franklin Police Department shortly after the homicide, you didn't flat out refuse to ever talk to them, did you?
No, I did not.
You stated to them, I'll talk to you, but I want a lawyer present. Is that
Correct. Yes.
At that point, once they knew you wanted to have a lawyer present, they didn't come back, did they?
No, they did not.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, thank you. Anything?
Just a couple questions. Mr. Stefanko, you were asked about refusing to talk to the police. You wanted a lawyer. Did you ever hire a lawyer?
I was using the same attorney that the Cobb family was using.
Who was that?
I honestly can't remember her name right now.
How many times did you talk to her?
I spoke with her one time on the phone.
Did you let her know that the police wanted to talk to you?
Yes.
And you said they never came back out. How is the police supposed to know when you hire an attorney?
I gave them my attorney's name when they were on my door.
So you had an attorney when they came. So did you have to get an attorney? You said you told them you didn't want to talk until you got an attorney.
Correct. I told them I would not talk without my attorney present.
Okay, so did you give them, you said you gave them the name that day?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. When did you hire her or had her? I thought you said you had to hire an attorney.
I did not directly hire her. I was recommended to her through Cindy and Jay Cobb
When?
that day.
Before or after the police came to your door?
It was before.
Why did you get an attorney, or you think you needed an attorney before the police came to your door?
I was told through talking with Cindy Cobb and Jay Cobb to not talk to any police or detectives without an attorney present, which I agreed with, due to the severity of the case.
So, once you got your attorney and talked to your attorney, did you ever go to the station and let you knew they wanted to talk to you, correct? Because they were at your door.
Correct.
You knew you had information, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I guess.
So you know the police want to talk to you, you know you have information, you said you don't want to talk without your attorney. Now, Detective Hitchens left his information with you as well, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. What would have stopped you from calling Detective Hitchens once you touched base with your attorney
I'm sorry, that's not my job.
to get out the truth? But it's your job now
No,
to get out the truth.
it's not my job, plain and simple.
You said what?
It's not my job
To do what?
to go out and pursue Detective Hitchens.
You're not pursuing him. He left you a card because you know he wanted to talk to you. Or I
And-
don't know if he left you a card. He just left you his information.
Okay?
So you didn't think you should have called Detective Hitchens once you got your attorney and,
No, I assumed that if he wanted to talk to me, that he would contact me.
okay.
Does she still represent him?
Does he still, I don't know the attorney's name, he never gave it to me, but does she still represent you?
No.
When did that end?
It never officially started, I guess, is the best way to put it.
I have no further.
I had no direct counsel for her because none was needed because Detective Hitchens never pursued it further.
Okay, I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anything else?
Nothing, Judge.
All right, thank you, sir. You may step down. Thanks, Desiree. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and take our lunch recess. It's 5 after 12. You know now that the state of Ohio has rested. I gave you the update yesterday. We probably will look to have closing arguments on Monday. So just as a reminder, you cannot discuss this case amongst yourselves. As a reminder, I told you in the beginning, when the 12 sit down to deliberate and discuss the case, that's when it's permitted. Nothing until then. Here we are Friday at noon. So you folks have been very cooperative and compliant over the last week, and I appreciate that. I ask that you continue to be compliant with my orders. With that, then, I will see you folks back here at approximately 1 p.m., and we will give you an update then. I'm not certain if there will be additional evidence or testimony this afternoon. I'll talk to the lawyers, all right? So with that, you're excused for lunch. Thank you. All right, thanks everyone. You may be seated. Just a few things I want to note for the record before we take our recess. And thanks, Desiree, again. Okay, so it's 5 after, well now it's about 7 after 12. You heard me tell the jurors they'll be back by 1 o'clock. We know that the state of Ohio is rested again. I just want to reiterate that you folks will be able to present all of your exhibits. We'll talk about all that. We'll talk about admissibility. Attorney O'Brien, you can either make your motion now, or if you would like to reserve your right, I will certainly hear it at the appropriate time your request to reserve is granted. I'd like to just have an idea as to what's going to happen this afternoon, or do you need to take the lunch hour to decide?
Judge, just inquired of my client, and at this point in time, it is Ms. Stefanko's wish to testify in her own behalf this afternoon, beginning at 1 o'clock.
Okay. I appreciate that. Go ahead.
If I could.
Mm-hmm.
I told Ms. Stefanko that she has a Fifth Amendment right. She cannot be compelled to testify. She can remain silent. I told her that there are risks, mainly cross-examination, whenever someone testifies.
Mm-hmm.
She indicates that she understands these. We talked about it at length last night,
Okay.
Your Honor.
Mm-hmm.
And even though she had indicated for months and months that she did not want to testify, and earlier in the week she said that she now decided she changed her mind and she wished to testify. I would ask the court to inquire.
Okay. And you answered any questions that you have. I understand, just like what you've indicated, for a certain period of time she indicated that she had no interest. She then apparently changed her mind. You've had those discussions with her. You've reviewed all of her rights to testify, not testify. The fact that there can be no comment on her not testifying. You covered all of that, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you cover with her the fact that it is not necessary that she take the witness stand in her own defense, that she has that constitutional right not to testify, and the fact that she did not testify must not be considered for any purpose by the jurors, and they will be instructed on that?
She understands that, Your Honor. We
Okay.
went over the Fifth Amendment.
Fair enough. And then she also understands, in addition to what you talked about with her, that if she chooses to testify, her testimony would be weighed by the same rules that apply to other witnesses. You explained all of that, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you're asking me to inquire of her at this time?
If she is doing this voluntarily and intelligently.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Stefanko, you've heard just all of the discussions that I've had with Attorney O'Brien on the record, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And you heard Attorney O'Brien indicate that for a period of time, you made statements that you did not want to testify. Is that correct?
That's true, Your Honor.
Okay, and now you've recently told your lawyer that you in fact want to testify on your own behalf. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You understand that you have a right to not testify, and the fact that you don't testify cannot be used against you. You understand all of that?
I do.
The state of Ohio would not be allowed to comment on the fact that you did not testify in their closing arguments or even make any mention of that to the jurors. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
You understand that, and Attorney O'Brien has explained that he went over with you the fact that if you do take the witness stand, you'll be subject to cross-examination by the state of Ohio, and there are a variety of matters that they can cover with you. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Has he answered all of your questions as it relates to your decision to testify or to not testify?
He has.
Do you have any questions for this court at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. With that, though, I appreciate the fact, Attorney O'Brien, that you've had that discussion. It sounds like you've had multiple discussions with her about each perspective. One more time, though, over the lunch recess before 1 o'clock, I'm going to ask that you talk to her just finally, and then I can confirm with her also. And I'm sure you have and will discuss the risks of her testimony in the event that she decides to go under oath in front of these jurors, correct?
It will be done, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Then, Ms. Stefanko, anything else that you would like to address with me, only specifically related to your choice to testify at this time?
No, Your Honor.
All right, have a seat. Does the state have anything that you would like to put on the record about what we've just discussed, or do you believe I need to advise the defendant about any other issue or inquire in any other manner at this time?
The only thing, Judge, is just as Mr. Cobb was instructed regarding spousal privilege, I would ask that she be instructed about the same thing.
Okay, fair enough. And as it relates to the prior rulings that I made, those rulings will stand. But specifically, though, I want to address with you as it relates to the advisement that I just gave her and the interaction I just had with her. Anything else you believe it's necessary for me to inquire?
No, I believe you covered it all.
All right, thank you very much. So we will take a lunch recess. And right now, is there anything further that the state of Ohio would like to put on the record?
No, Judge, thank you.
Okay, Attorney O'Brien?
Nothing further at this moment.
All right, so what I would like, I told the jurors, I think 1 o'clock. If you folks would report back here at 5 till 1, and I expect you to be prompt, you can then give me an update about any difference in opinion that your client has at that time. Okay? All right, thank you very much.